Republicans lose a last-ditch effort today to try and warn voters that Democrats are trying to take away Tabor refunds come November. The software company behind the bumpy launch of Colorado's universal pre-K program has launched a PR campaign trying to distance itself from the state's problems. Adams County opens a shelter specifically for young people who don't have a stable home and have ended up the victim of a crime.
This was a gaping hole in Adams County.
Fancy like Ball Arena? Survey of season ticket holders suggests the home of the Nuggets and the Avs wants a more exclusive clientele in the seats. And celebrating decades of music that doubled as a place where Coloradans could just be themselves. Tonight on Next. There is an important property tax vote coming up in November, and polls show the more that voters know about Democrats' Prop HH, the less they like it. Today, Republicans lost one of their best chances to get more information in front of voters. Republicans tried and failed to get amendments to the so-called Blue Book, the information guide that every voter will get later this fall. It's how issues are presented that are at issue in that Blue Book, and it's up to a nonpartisan legislative staff. Republicans could not convince that group to change the wording around Governor Jared Polis's 10-year tax plan, Prop HH, that would take taxpayer Bill of Rights refund money and use it to offset some of the increase in property taxes. Prop HH also changes Tabor refunds so that they no longer be based on how much people pay in taxes. It would be a flat refund, so it effectively makes them a redistribution from higher income earners to lower income Coloradans. Republicans were not able to add the language that they wanted, saying that a no vote on Prop HH would protect Tabor refunds. Republicans have also challenged it on constitutional grounds, but the state Supreme Court says they won't rule on that unless Coloradans pass it. Kids who do not have a stable place to call home are more likely to become crime victims. Adams County is opening a new shelter as a place to stay for young people who come in contact with law enforcement but aren't in any trouble. Here's Angela McCall.
What is now a vacant building will soon be a temporary home for young people in Adams County.
This would be our education space.
Mike Marcico is the VP of Clinical Operations at the Community Outreach Center.
What we really hope is that the kiddos know that we're here for them and we want to support them.
Up to 10 kids ages 12 to 18 will be able to come here by the end of the year if they're displaced from their home and in need of help.
And this was a gaping hole in Adams County with having no place to take youth who are not involved in the criminal justice system. Kids can be victims. Kids aren't always suspects.
Right now, police officers have no way to help kids who are victims of crimes with no family or home to go back to.
It's very, very difficult after 5 o'clock on holidays and on the weekends to find somewhere to take these kids. So we often end up sitting with them for hours until the rest of the system comes back online. It's extremely important.
The Adams County District Attorney's Office helped get a bill passed in 2022 that would make this shelter and its funding possible.
So we are trying to get that window of opportunity when we know that somebody is on the streets and get them help, get them here, get them services, and get them stable.
The longest stay will only be 21 days or less, but they hope it's enough time to make a long-term impact.
We've just showed them that there are individuals that do care for them, whether family by blood or family by choice. We just want to ensure that they know that there are people that do care and there are places to get services and they don't need to turn to the streets.
The clinic right now has 10 beds, but they say that's just a start and hope eventually to expand if there's need for it.
Yeah, it makes sense intervening at a point when, young person hasn't done anything wrong, but just based on circumstance, they're going to be under enormous pressure to be in some tough situations.
Right, and right now there's really no protocol or process when those kids are in that tough situation, right? And so then they help them in the moment, but then what happens to them afterwards, right? And so that is what this solution is for, really, and they hope that it will have that long-term impact because at the end of the day, they're kids. These are kids 12 to 18, and they deserve a chance just like anyone else.
Angela McCall, thank you. Another school district is stepping up for families disappointed by the shaky rollout of Colorado's universal pre-K program. Jeffco School says it will use $1.5 million in COVID funds to cover full-day preschool for low-income families who are expecting to get that only to lose out on it at the last moment. So the state's going to end up paying half the cost, school district will cover the other half. And they're only going to be able to do this for 1 year. Still, it's a big relief For parents like Sean Thomas, who told us earlier this month she was frantic to find payment assistance when she was one of the thousands of families that lost out on expected full-day pre-K.
I wish I knew a little sooner that I would have to pay $500 a month because I'm like scrambling to apply for this funding. And if I knew earlier, I could have applied like 6 months ago.
Adams 12 is also covering that gap for disappointed families, putting $500,000 towards full-day preschool. The software company involved in the rough launch of Colorado's universal pre-K program is now launching a PR campaign to convince people to stop associating them with all these problems. Bridgecare is telling journalists and the school district suing the state that they were just following orders from the Polis administration, that Bridgecare wasn't responsible for communication and eligibility requirements. That's all on the state. So Bridgecare is the behind-the-scenes system that follows a state algorithm to assign students to this preschool or that preschool. Yesterday, Bridgecare's CEO wrote to a school district suing the state, saying it's inaccurate to publicly implicate Bridgecare in any frustrations about the UPK rollout. We successfully did what we were contracted to do. In an email to journalists today, Bridgecare's public relations firm wrote, quote, "Many people falsely believe the company is responsible for people's frustrations." Ball Arena will celebrate its 24th anniversary in October. You probably don't get a facelift in your mid-20s unless you're on television, but that appears to be the plan for the home of the Nuggets and Avs. Kroenke Sports sent out a survey asking fans what they would think about some fancy changes inside that building. Steve Steger got a hold of it.
Arenas become economically obsolete, at least in the eyes of owners, a lot faster than they become obsolete in any physical sort of sense.
Ball Arena looks pretty good for 23, but its owner wants it to look better and sent out a survey to fans this week asking what they would think. It's hard not to notice a theme pointed out here by Victor Matheson, a Boulder native and sports economics professor at Holy Cross University.
What we have seen all across sports over the last 30 years is arenas getting smaller, but also getting more exclusive.
Exclusive. The survey actually asks about that. Rate your satisfaction with Ball Arena's current exclusivity. To me, it sounded bougie. To Matheson, it sounded like business.
Team owners have found that you can make a lot more money by selling fewer tickets, but at extremely premium prices, than by making gigantic stadiums, but that you have to fill up with $5 or $10 tickets.
The survey from Kroenke Sports asks fans what they would think about new tiers of seating, including enhanced general seating, basically normal seats with access to a bar, new ledge seats in the first row of the upper bowl. They want to revamp exclusive club access areas like the Truly Club and Club Lexus and expand club level into some of the lower bowl.
The old days of having a gigantic swath of bleacher seats, obviously those are gone, right? And you try to make things as niche-y as possible. The data just show that it's a lot more money and a lot easier to sell a handful of very expensive things than a lot of very cheap ones.
Kroenke Sports specifically says these are just considerations. Hasn't confirmed anything yet. Matheson says if these changes do happen, it'll leave some fans with a tough choice.
Obviously, you have to decide where you're going to spend your money, and if prices are increased because they make the product fancier, you got to decide whether that's still affordable for your wallet.
So Matheson pointed out this is what happens when you win championships. You know, voters approved a new stadium for the Broncos in 1998 after they won their first Super Bowl earlier that year. He said one of the keys will be making sure that fans who can't afford to go to the arena can still watch the team. So the Kroenkes would have a little work cut out for them in that area. You know, the whole TV thing is kind of rough right now.
Put the teams on TV.
Yeah.
That aside, what about us sports fans that love sports, love to go to a game, but are also tremendously cheap?
Like me? I mean, I'm looking at this and thinking in a couple of years, I'm not going to be able to afford to go to as many games as I've gone to in the last few years. And I think a lot of fans are going to kind of come to that point, you know, that maybe it just becomes kind of a special occasion thing rather than a regular term thing. But that's just the way that Matheson says stadiums are going these days, because people want this exclusive feeling inside of an arena instead of just like kind of that camaraderie level of bleacher seats and $5, $10 tickets.
They're going to put a party deck inside Ball Arena. All right, Steve, thank you. Former Colorado prosecutor Jenna Ellis is getting a go-round on the other end of the law. She and former President Trump today avoided an upcoming court appearance in Georgia.
We're here, there's 400 of us, proud musicians playing.
It is all about pride and finding community in music. That's next. Colorado's Jenna Ellis might not be Donald Trump's legal advisor anymore, and he's not paying her legal bills, much to her chagrin. But they're still sticking together in terms of legal strategy. Ellis and Trump both pleaded not guilty to felony charges today. They waived their upcoming arraignments in Georgia. Ellis, who is a Centennial Institute fellow at Colorado Christian University, is accused of lying to the Georgia state legislature, trying to get them to send a slate of Trump electors to Congress, even though Joe Biden won Georgia in 2020. Ellis is one of 19 alleged co-conspirators facing charges for attempts to overturn the election. Trump also pleaded not guilty today. This is the fourth time that Trump has pleaded not guilty to criminal charges since he left the White House. No official trial date at this point, but the DA down there has proposed a start date of October 23rd. Since 2008, Colorado's voters have rejected statewide abortion bans 4 times. Now, abortion advocates want to take that momentum a step further and ask voters to expand access to reproductive care. Advocacy groups including the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, and Cobalt say they're working on a ballot initiative that would overturn Colorado's state ban on using public funds for abortion care. That ban was narrowly passed by voters in 1984. Westward was first to report on this new proposal, which the ballot proponents think would would impact about 250,000 public employees who don't have abortion care covered through their employee health plans. Colorado legislators already required that private health insurance provides abortion care. That happened earlier this year. This would expand that same coverage to public employees, but it would require a change to the state constitution. Danielle Grant, tomorrow is the start of meteorological fall. I didn't get you anything.
Why not? You still have a day.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to get anything, so I'm trying to set expectations low, which we both know is the key to happiness in life.
I guess so. No.
Low expectations.
PSL or something? No.
I can get you something PSL. Yeah, like a candle or a latte or something.
All I know is it is not going to feel like fall at all tomorrow. The 90-degree temperatures are back and back with a vengeance. Here we are winding down August, and we have had 15 days with below average temperatures, 15 days with above average temperatures, and only one right smack dab at average. Numbers today, pretty toasty. 2 degrees shy of our record. It was 98 degrees last set back in 2011 and 1960. It was toasty off to the eastern plains, mid to upper 90s out there. 101 in Pueblo, 70s and 80s up into the high country. And tonight, the only area I'm watching just to the north of the San Luis Valley, a couple of isolated showers and perhaps a rumble of thunder, a little lightning, and that is it. High pressure is around, and that's going to keep us dry tomorrow. However, as it shifts off to the east, we'll be watching more monsoonal rains pour back in across the desert southwest, and eventually, by the tail end of the weekend, roll back into Colorado. So keep that in mind if you have any fun Labor Day outdoor plans. 95. Back to the mid to upper 90s we go tomorrow afternoon. Plenty of sunshine out there, just scorching hot in Sterling up to Ogallala with 70s and 80s to the mountains. Your 7-day forecast, again, those storms, they'll start popping up Sunday afternoon. We'll have a slightly better shot on Monday, on Labor Day, and then we kind of hang tight in the 80s for much of next week.
Some things are better, but some things we still have to be that safe and welcoming space.
For 40 years, Colorado's LGBTQ community has used music to find one another, to share their collective voice. A lot's changed in that time. Some things remain. And you want to know, are the drivers on E470 without plates riding scot-free? More license plate questions? You know we're game. Let's answer some. Our next question tonight is from Adam. He says he drives E470 a couple times a week and sees cars, semis, and trucks without any license plate. And he's wondering, does E470 just get stiffed on that revenue? Adam, they do. They're obviously not getting revenue from cars without plates they can't track. Those cars are free riders, and it's against the law, obviously. There's no way for the toll cameras to identify the owner or the driver without a plate. If they're caught, obviously big if, they could be fined $100? I mean, that's only if the State Patrol sees somebody, pulls them over for not having plates. Speaking of people who like to drive around without chipping in for what everybody else pays for, expired temp tags and the other temp tags that haven't expired yet. E470 says those are treated just like a regular license plate. They can read those. They're able to toll those folks. You look up the address for the vehicle's owner and mail them a bill, just like anybody else. For 40 years, Colorado's Mile High Freedom Band has been a place for queer musicians to find community. 4 decades in, still going strong, they're celebrating with musicians from across the country.
You can speak to so many of our members and they'll tell you music saved my life.
Band has always been integral to my life.
It was that thing that I had that I could do. It was my safe space in high school. It was the place I felt comfortable. Even though I wasn't out, I at least felt like I had a family with my band. So those will be for rhythm section and vocalist. Mile High Freedom Band was founded in 1984. So this season marks our 40th anniversary here in Denver.
40 years, yeah, kind of crazy.
When the band was founded, it was a very different world for LGBTQ+ people, and there weren't a lot of safe spaces to be who you were.
Now we've come a long way, I think, in 40 years from having to literally fight to be allowed to march in a parade.
Over years, those things have gotten better and better and better. But even today, trans people are killed on the street every day in the US. So some things are better, but some things we still have to be that safe and welcoming space.
Thank you. Versus now we get to bring a national audience here to Denver.
And that's what we're doing here, Rocky Mountain Dreams. We have about 400 musicians and guests from all over the place, all of these bands that are coming in. They've already started arriving today. We go wherever we can to spread a message and show people living their authentic lives and having fun and making music in the process.
Music brings us all together.
Your feedback tonight is a lot about Ball Arena becoming more exclusive. And while we're on the topic, put the teams on TV. It's a sign that it's almost Bow Chicka Wow Wow season for the elk. Rocky Mountain National Park is warning its visitors to watch out for elk that need some space as they get down to business. Rangers respectfully ask that visitors do not approach elk that are knocking hooves. So if you're up at Rocky, remember to stay out of the closed meadows and maybe turn up a little Barry White from your car speakers to set the mood. So much feedback tonight about the idea of Ball Arena surveying ticket holders about whether they want more exclusive amenities there. Randy says, so only rich people are going to be permitted to see sports teams in person? We should sue to remove the names Denver and Colorado. Let them be known as the, oh my God, I can't read that on TV. Okay, well, we'll leave that there. From a text. Some of us going to a sporting event or concert is already a special event because the admission is so expensive. This new exclusivity theme further limits regular people's access. Had a lot of conversations about that lately. Places in town that used to be public that are now ever more exclusive. Cough, Union Station, cough. See you next time.